Freedom is coming. Every captive. We're not slowing down. If your legs get tired, tell the devil he's a liar.
Yeah.
Let's go. We ride in Jesus' name. Break chains of sin and shame. Declare Jesus to the ends of the earth.
Well, good morning, Get Wrecked for Recovery crew. So it's day 78 of the Redeeming Eden Cycle Tour. RECT, Get Wrecked for Recovery. A bicycle trip up the Atlantic coast of America to raise awareness that there are addiction recovery options available, that you don't have to die in your addiction. There's churches, celebrate recoveries, and rescue missions all over the nation, all over the world, that just want to help you, talk to you, and love you if you find yourself battling addiction. So what a better place to camp than all of this panorama of mountains. I will try to put a zoomed in video here while I talk of this entire panorama, and also kind of tell you about the causeway that I'm about to ride across. So yeah, today is the 1-year anniversary of me leaving for the Coast to Coast Cycle Tour. Of course, I had the Florida Chronicles, my proof of concept ride through Florida that COVID kind of shut everything down. But you know, last year, February, I started praying about how to build a Christian recovery facility. And my pastor and I had talked about it, and we finally came to the conclusion that a bike ride for addiction recovery awareness would be the way to do it. And so I'm riding through 48 states over 4 years, kind of like Forrest Gump ran across the country. I'm actually trying to do it in the same time that he did. I've got a lot in common with Forrest Gump. I've got the beard. I'm from Mobile, Alabama. People from my high school actually lived in Battery, which is, you know, where the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company was. So I'm from the fictional Greenbow, Alabama. I've got an ex-girlfriend named Jenny tattooed on my wrist. I'm not kidding. I just decided to start riding my bike all over the United States. And I plan to end these rides in Monument Valley, Utah in May of 2023. And so that's where Forrest ended his run. And since I have kind of all that going for me, figured that, you know, it would be a great way to raise awareness and also to make the connections necessary to build a rehab. So this is kind of like a giant fundraising tour. However, I don't do any fundraising in person. I only fundraise on the YouTube channel and on Facebook. And I'm a nonprofit through International Gospel Outreach. But the reason I say all that is because this is the 1-year anniversary of leaving for the Coast to Coast Tour, and I'm in state number 25, Vermont. And it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Love Vermont so far. Stayed here at Camp Skyland last night. Met Joey. This place has been in his family since 1926 is when they started it. And Christian family, wonderful people. Just it was so good. We actually just sat and fellowshiped and had coffee this morning, and talked and shared with each other, and it was nice. It was very nice. But this is an absolutely beautiful place. If you are cycling anywhere in this area, this is a 10 out of 10 would recommend place. They ended up handing me a sticker for the bike, so I'll be putting that on the bike here shortly, and also a couple donations. So. One from his church and then one personally. But yeah, God is so good, so faithful, over and over again. And I love this place. I love Camp Skyland. So yeah, the causeway that you're looking at now goes from, I guess, where we're at now, and then goes across down to Charlotte, and then down into Burlington. And there's a bike ferry. So I'm going to take the bike ferry today. It's just for cyclists. It's a rail trail with a bike ferry in the middle, which is kind of exciting. Like, I'm ready to check that out. I'm going to go, you know, roughly 40 miles to see where I end up. Have conversations all along the way. And yeah, I'm ready to get this day started. So with all that being said, you know, another cool thing yesterday I know all the 7s were prevalent. 70 miles, day 77. We also got to 700 subscribers on the same day. So, you know, God's all over this. I'd like to use the word, you know, anointing. It's just a proof to me that he has anointed this ministry. And I'm not big into numbers. Like, I'm not that guy who's all like, you know, numerology and all that kind of stuff. But yesterday was like overwhelmingly 7s, like completion. You know, God created the earth in 7 days. Number of completion, number of perfection. So yeah, yesterday was a cool one. Anyway, I don't want to keep this part too long. Let's get on the road. I love you guys. I'll see you later. All right, well, that bike ferry is amazing. So they mentioned to me that they had like 16,000 people take this ferry. It's $5 one way, $10 for the round trip. 16,000 people, and they have an Everybody Rides program where people donate so that other people that can't afford it can ride. But I'm gonna say it. This bike path, right, with the Adirondacks over here, and then where I camped last night was out on this point, and then the Green Mountains over here. I know you can't see the tops of all of them because of the cloud cover, but this causeway, this rail to trail, #1 in the United States of America that I've been on. It is the most scenic thing. I'm really just out in the middle of a gulf. Like, you cannot tell from the video how far away all these things are and how big they are around. But I mean, like, you know, just right around, don't want to make you dizzy. But even just right here behind me, you know, these mountains, I came through that yesterday. That's the Lake Placid area. That's those high peaks wilderness. And they're just stretching up into the sky. The sunlight's kind of bathing some of them. But to have this here, and then not only that, to cut across this gap that's been left by this bike ferry, you cannot find a better rail trail. I have not found a better rail trail. You might know of one. I haven't found one yet. Not only that, Vermont's been amazing. So the very first guy I met coming into Vermont, Christian, supported the ministry. Joey, Christian supported the ministry. Bike Ferry wants to, like, you know, put Redeeming Eden on their little page. She's going to write a little thing about it. Met this guy, Tom. His mom's 90 years old, riding this quadricycle. Christian does prison ministry. So far, every single person I've met in Vermont is a Christian and supports Redeeming Eden. It's crazy. It's so cool. So cool. God is so good. I love Vermont, but I really love this bike trail. I know I'm gushing here, but yeah, I want to fly the drone, but I'm not going to. It is just a little too windy. But I would love to come back here and fly the drone while I'm riding down this bike path, so you could, you know, kind of get the perspective of how big everything is around compared to how, you know, this little path is right through the water. Anyway, that's been a long one. Let me keep riding. Love you guys. See you later. All right, so that's it for the video for today. I know what you're thinking. Adam, you only went 15 miles today. Not even that, like 14.99. Couldn't you have done 0.01 and made it a full 15? I mean, geez, I know you did 70 miles yesterday. But 15, seriously? Well, if you look at the time it took me to do that 15, I was on the bike for 3 hours and 33 minutes. So, yeah, I ended up taking, a lot of time this morning to just talk with Joey at Camp Skyland, and it was so good. He prayed for me when I left, and just God was all over it. And I didn't look at what the donations were. I just put them in the bucket. And so then, the bike ferry, when I got there, I spent a lot of time talking to the people that ran the ferry, and then I spent a lot of time talking to Tom. And so, I spent maybe an hour just there at the bike ferry. And so, it was like 1 o'clock by the time that I started to roll down into Burlington. And with yesterday evening, I stopped at Burger King yesterday evening and had a burger, but I was thinking that I would get food, eat a full meal when I got into town. I was just trying to get to the campground by 8. There's nothing around the campground. So I kind of went to bed hungry. Woke up this morning and I had coffee and a chocolate bar there at Camp Skyland that Joey gave to me. He also offered for me to take a zero there, like to stay another night on them. And I was like, I've got to keep moving. Like, I've got to make forward progress. I can't sit stagnant. I just took the day off in Lake Placid. He was like, I understand. I just wanted to offer it to you. And so, anyway, I hadn't had much to eat. Now, they offered me more like snack foods there, but I needed the protein, like full breakfast kind of thing. And so I was essentially bonking, which is, hitting a wall for runners. It's that low blood sugar. I'm not diabetic, but like low blood glycogen, where you've used everything that your body has and now it's starting to use your fat, and so your brain gets foggy and slows you down. I just had that. Like, I didn't want to be on the bike. Usually the day after an off day is the way I feel. That's the way I feel. But yesterday I did 70 miles. I also sat down when I went to breakfast. I went to the Skinny Pancake, which is like a crepes place, and had the Noah's Ark breakfast. It was good. It was so good.
Calling animals 2 by 2, so we call them in the ox. 2 by 2, we call the birds the ox with the kangaroo.
It's like 2 eggs, 2 pieces of sausages, a crepe, or 2 crepes with like maple syrup and cane sugar. It was good. And then like a crepe on the side. Like, I had 2 full meals at breakfast that had like a cranberry compote in it. It was so good. So good. Whipped cream, like a real, actually homemade whipped cream dollop next to it. It was good. So while I sat there, I've been back and forth with Dave and Sue Morton from the Trans-America Trail, and then again in New Jersey. He's been kind of mapping out the route ahead, which way to go. He's been looking at it online, and the time, I just don't have time. I don't have any time on these rides. So he offered to help out with, mapping that section. And I sat down and actually ordered the adventure cycling route, looked at the way that it has me going, and I still don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I may not even take either one of the adventure cycling routes. I may just go straight over the mountains and through, because there's not very much camping. I'm 120 miles away from like the termination point, and I'd still have to go south through a lot of towns in Vermont to get there. I may do that, but I just don't know. But there's not much camping. So like, it's 60 something miles, 68 miles to the next campsite over a big pass. And I figured if there was ever a day that I was going to do that and climb a huge mountain, I need a full day. Like, I'm going to need a full day to attempt it, if that's the way I plan to go. It does look like once I cross that mountain pass, I'm in the woods for the rest of Vermont, probably New Hampshire and Maine. Like, there's nothing else out here. It's just woods from the satellite. So finding a place to camp probably won't be an issue, but then my third night charging my things is probably going to be a little complicated. So I looked up online and I was like, hotels in the area, come on, what you got, Google? And there were ones right down there on the water that were just way too expensive. But there was this one up at the top of the hill. It's a DoubleTree. And so I was like, okay, yeah, $100, I can do that. It's like 110 on Google. And so I climbed up the entire hill, rode through Vermont College, like it was, or Vermont University. Beautiful, just beautiful. Vermont is definitely a town where I would bring my wife and just walk around. So many people outside. It was just gorgeous. Burlington was gorgeous. So I get up here to the DoubleTree, and I walked in. I was like, I saw you guys had, $100 room online. She was like, that is not our rate. She said, but if you found it online and you can show me, then let's do it. It was actually $111 at breakfast, and it was $110 when I got here, so it changed and dropped $1. And so I was like, another thing, while I was at breakfast, I sat down and actually looked at the donations from Joey. And it was a $50 bill from him and a $50 bill from his church. So I was like, okay, this is all you. So that gave me the go-ahead to go ahead and get a room. But yeah, on top of all that, it was cold and windy. Like, I guess this upstate New York, upstate Vermont, upstate New Hampshire, maybe Maine section, I'm going to be back in the cold again for some days because it was cold today. It was like 60, but cloudy and overcast and like a 15-mile-an-hour steady wind. I was freezing, and breakfast was a sit-outside thing. They had an indoor thing, but I wanted to watch the bike. And I was just shivering. Like, I started to get a chill, and I was like, I don't like it. So anyway, tomorrow looks like it warms up. Looks like it'll be in the low 80s, mid 70s, low 80s for the whole, rest of this week. So that's just kind of the way that I ended up doing it. I had some emails I needed to respond to. I like to respond to any donations, and I had some that were backlogged from Facebook donations that finally came through to iGo. And then just a bunch of things. So today ended up being a work day / rest day / bike day. But the bike path is number one in the United States so far. I don't think I'm going to find anything else cooler than that. I mean, a causeway through Lake Champlain with, the Adirondacks on one side and the Green Mountains on the other. It was just, can't explain the scenery. Got to go there to find out how cool that was. Plus a bike ferry in the middle. You can't beat that. Big news about the Redeeming Eden Instagram and Facebook pages is that Dominic Varvaro has offered to kind of manage some of that. Put better posts like with @ and hashtags and do some research on the places that I've been and kind of help with the social media side of things. He's doing that just as a donation out of his heart, a couple hours a week. So thank you, Dominic. Man, I appreciate you, brother, more than you know. So I also need to call him tonight because we need to discuss, like all the pros and cons and things. Like we had this conversation the other day, and so now that he started doing it, we've got to nail down some of the other things and make it all work. But it looks so good. Like, I'm excited. My heart fills with joy every time I see a post come up from someone that's not me through me. Like, it's really neat. God's really putting it all together at the right time. Perfect timing. Anyway, so with all that being said, that's it for the day. Short day. This conversation is going to make it a long video, but hey, I love you guys. So, if you know anyone who's passed away from addiction in any form or fashion, please drop their name in the comments or find me through the Papa link in the description, and I would love to ride for your person and celebrate their life with you for a day. If you know anyone who's actively addicted, share this with them. I don't want to see anybody else die from addiction. I know you don't either. Let's use Redeeming Eden as a tool that we might save a life. This is the REACCT Tour, REACCT, the Redeeming Eden Atlantic Coast Cycle Tour, and I need you to react. I need you to like the videos, comment on the videos on YouTube, share the videos on your social media profile, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. All those things will go a long way in helping to build Redeeming Eden, the Garden Rehab. Last but not least, don't forget Redeeming Eden is a non-profit ministry through international gospel outreach. I'll leave a link to them in the description. You can go there, you can find out more about Redeeming Eden and about the Cody Jordan Forever Funeral Fund. Or you can go back and watch the day one video from this series, the REACCT Tour. Do know that any donations above and beyond what it takes for the cycle tours will go to building Redeeming Eden, the Garden Rehab. Cool. Very cool day. Yeah, from here at the DoubleTree in Burlington, Vermont. I love you guys. Jesus loves you. I'll see you later. Have a good night.